Greetings, everybody. It is I, the Nomad, coming to you live from the wastelands of the internet to bring you news. News you may be aware of, news you may not be aware of, news you probably don't even care about. Right? But there's plenty of news out there, folks. Plenty of news. And we're going to start today with this. Spain's far-right Vox party is on the brink of sharing power as a conservative kingmaker. For the first time since the Franco dictatorship ended in 1975, a far-right party could enter the government. Spain could be about to be governed by a coalition that includes far-right party for the first time since Francisco Franco's dictatorship ended in 1975, propelled in part by frustration surrounding a drought and the environmental measures that are in place to ameliorate it. Opinion polls indicate that the Conservative Popular Party, led by Alberto Núñez Feijóo, has enough support to unseat Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, but will fall short of an outright majority. That leaves Vox, an ultra-nationalist, anti-immigration, and anti-feminist group, the likely kingmaker. Okay. First of all, I'm going to be real blunt here. Okay? This is not a rise of the right, of the far right. Okay? Especially as the U.S. defines what a right-wing person is. Okay? And what I mean by that is a conservative is considered a right-wing. But a lot of the people who sit up there and talk about right-wing, these are not people who believe in conservative values to a point. Okay? Anti-immigration, ultra-nationalist. I'd like to know what they mean by ultra-nationalist. Right? These are just buzzwords. Anti-feminist, again, these are all buzzwords. Okay? Now, there are groups, that want to put the woman back into the kitchen. There are people that want to put women in the burqas. Okay? Now, you can say that they're right-wing. You can try and make that claim, but they're not ultra-nationalists necessarily. In fact, they don't care about the nation at all. Many of the policies that they want to put in place are not quote-unquote right-wing. Right? They're leftist type of policies. It's just that they themselves would benefit from them. Okay? And that's really the only difference is who gets the pot of money. Leftists constantly talk about it. Constantly. All right? And this is part of the problem with people like Patrick Smith here who wrote this story. He believes I will guarantee you that he believes, all right, that the left cares about the little guy. That they're going to put in policies to help the little guy. No, they're not. They're going to put in policies that help themselves. The little guy be damned. Tell me how the little guy, all right, and we're going to talk, one of the things that they mentioned, these environmental measures. Tell me how the little guy is helped by these environmental measures. Nobody's helped by these environmental measures. Except certain well-placed leftists that make money from them. A whole pot of money. But what this guy doesn't bother to talk about is a lot of these environmental policies and things that they've been doing aren't in Spain. They're coming from the EU. That's why he's calling them ultra-nationalistic. I'm not an idiot. Okay? But you're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul during these time frames. People are acting like, oh, we didn't have all these problems before. No, we always have had these problems as far as the weather, where sometimes the weather is difficult for people. What a surprise! Sometimes the weather doesn't sit up there and do what you want. That's a surprise to anybody. Let's go on to the next story. Protesters try to storm Baghdad's green zone over the burning of the Quran and the Iraqi flag in Denmark. Baghdad. Tensions flared up again in Iraq on Saturday over a series of recent protests in Europe involving the desecration of the Quran, Islam's holy book, which sparked a debate over the balance between freedom of speech and religious sensitivities. Hundreds of protesters attempted to storm Baghdad's heavily fortified green zone that houses foreign embassies and the seat of the Iraqi government early on Saturday, following reports that an ultra-nationalist group burned a copy of the Quran in front of the Iraqi embassy in the Danish capital of Copenhagen the previous day. The protest came 2 days after people angered by a planned burning of the Islamic holy book in Sweden stormed the Swedish embassy in Baghdad. All right, so why am I doing this story? Okay. I'm doing this story because these are being fueled, right, by the Iranians. Much of this unrest that they're talking about in Iraq is being fueled by the Iranians. But more than that, tell me, you little left-wing little wushes, you little left-wing little pussies, right? Tell me, where's the humanity in these people? Where's the common humanity in these people? You see, my problem with a lot of what's going on with the left is their lack of understanding that the world doesn't rise and set in their assholes. That their worldview of rainbow and unicorns doesn't exist. That their view of human beings is flawed because they think everyone thinks like they do except reprobates. So tell me, is the entire nation of Iraq reprobates because of what's going on here? Or is the entire nation of Iran reprobates because of what's going on here? Or is it that you don't know what the hell human beings are really like? And you've taken for granted the right, and I mean the conservatives in this country, all right, when you think about what they over there are like. You want to focus on the commonality of human beings and commonality of man. All right? Fine. That's all well and good. Show me it working here. Let me see you stop this with the commonality of man. Show me where anything that you guys have tried has been successful to fix this region's back-ass way of philosophies, all right, and cultural dynamics. Show me where it's ever worked. Show me, please show me where the left's views in the long run have actually fixed something. On to the next. An American soldier who crossed into North Korea didn't want to return to the U.S. Yes, we had a soldier defect this week. New details emerged Friday that might provide clues in a mystery about why a 23-year-old U.S. Army private crossed the border into North Korea earlier this week. The U.S. official confirms that on September 4th, 2022, Private Travis King failed to report for his daily formation, and reached when reached away from the base, when reached away from the base, stated that he refused to return to a post or America. At the time, King was serving as a cavalry scout at Camp Boniface, which is located just south of the southern end of the DMZ in northwest South Korea. As a scout, and because of where he was serving, King would have been aware of the risks in crossing the DMZ, officials said. King was later found in Wijambu, a city located 25 miles southeast of Camp Boniface. On Friday, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, speaking at the Aspen Security Forum in Aspen, Colorado, made his first public comments about King. Also, we are very concerned, of course, about his well-being, Blinken said. We'd, we'd like to know his whereabouts. We have communicated to North Korea seeking that information. I don't have anything more at this point. Asked whether King might be tortured, Blinken said, there are certainly concerns based on what we have seen in the past and the way North Korea has treated those it's detained. American officials have tried to gain clarity on his location or condition, and even the circumstances that led him to cross the border. Okay, what led him to cross the border? I'm gonna shorten this so everyone can understand. What's led him to cross the border is he was up on charges for assault. Okay, he was up on charges, and he was set to face pending administrative separations for foreign conviction. All right. This guy had screwed up royally, okay, and ran because he didn't want to be charged criminally for certain crimes that he had committed. Now, I don't know what he's thinking going to North Korea. He's going to have a hard time there, even if they decide that the North Koreans decide that he is a bona fide defector, all right, and he turns over whatever he can to the North Koreans. Which don't think that rank, just because somebody has a low rank, that they can't do damage to certain sensitive information, right? That he doesn't possess sensitive information, all right? It's very possible that he does. Right? Rank is not the issue. Okay. And there's other types of evidence that he could other types of information or he could provide. So if he's truly a defector, okay, the North Koreans will, well, first of all, they're not going to believe that he's just a defector. Okay, they're going to think he came over as a spy because that's how they think, and then they are going to interrogate him very, very thoroughly. Okay, is it likely that he gets tortured? It's a definite possibility. And if if they believe that he's a criminal running to them, do you think they're going to welcome him in with open arms? I don't think that this guy's thinking very clearly. All right. Now, when I say the guy's up on charges, I don't know the situation. We don't know the situation that he's in. All right. We do know that he was having problems within the military, right? And like I said, that they had they had leveled charges against him. The fact that they were kicking him out of the military, right? Now they in this thing it said that they were going to send him back to the United States and they were going to then administratively separate him. That to me means they're going to go the UCMJ route. Hey, Maddie. Hi, Chris. Ms. Murder. Right? Not thinking clearly. That's an understatement. Hey, Maddie, if you want to join, just let me know, and I'll open up the Discord, and we'll I'll just hop into Discord. Just let me know. All right? Text me and let me know. The guy. All right. All right. Back in the day, and I know many of you probably are like, oh, their eyes are rolling already out there. I served 2 tours in Korea, and my second tour I was up on the DMZ. Okay, I was north of Weijambu, which I mentioned earlier. And yes, I can actually pronounce that because, well, when you drive through it enough times, you you learn certain words. So okay, that's fine. That's fine. You learn certain words. You can learn to pronounce certain words. Right. So Weijambu is kind of one of the ones you have to remember. But this is not a joke. The North Koreans are a very insular people. They are a completely different mindset. Not and from anything that you can even think about, and you can even express. Okay, they do believe when we talk about people seeing certain figures such as Kim Jong Un as gods. It's not a joke. They really do believe in the divinity of those people. They really do believe that it's not that they don't understand that starvation is bad and that they're hungry, but they don't blame their dear leader for their starvation. And they are absolutely, and I am serious about this, absolutely terrified of Americans. They think that the West are a bunch of cannibals. I'm not joking, all right, that will cut you up and eat them. That will murder people just so they can feast on their entrails. All right, on to the next story. Trial in Trump's classified documents case set for May of next year. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's trial in a case charging him with retaining dozens of classified documents containing sensitive national security information is being set on May 20th next year, a court order said on Friday. A federal judge in Florida rejected Trump's petition to delay the trial until sometime after the November 2024 presidential election. But the start date is far later than the Justice Department's request to begin proceedings in December. The U.S. Judge Eileen Cannon said in the order that the government's proposed schedule is atypically accelerated and inconsistent with ensuring a fair trial. Trump was indicted on 37 criminal counts last month over allegations of willfully withholding highly sensitive records at his Mar-a-Lago estate after leaving office in January of 2021 and obstructing government efforts to get them back. Trump, who became the first former president to face federal criminal charges, has pleaded not guilty to the criminal counts. The 77-year-old has also insisted that the charges against him are politically motivated. Okay, let's talk about this for a moment. First of all, I have said this many many times. Okay. Justice delayed is injustice in and of itself. Why are we waiting till May to go through this? Hell, why would we be waiting till December to start going through this? And I'm serious about this. These kind of delays. Now, in this specific case, I understand it to an extent because we're not dealing with an honest government in this case, right? The government is going to obstruct and obstruct and obstruct, all right, and there will be, I guarantee you, there's going to be again and again and again. There's going to be lawyers for Trump demanding certain things from the DOJ related to this case that the DOJ is going to try and come back and say, no, 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 this isn't part of your discovery. Okay, so this is going to go again and again and again and come up again and again and again and again and again. That's what's going to happen. Okay, so from that standpoint, because of what everyone wants to do with this case, right, the politics involved in this are just slimy. All the way around. Now, I have no problem with the judge looking at this and saying, okay, realistically, we're going to delay this. Probably drag it to closer to the elections. Look, the actual trial will go fairly quick. I firmly believe that the actual trial will be a week long at most. Right? Don't expect this trial to be dragged out long. Right? When it actually hits, it won't be. How it'll come out, who knows? I'll be honest with you. I think the judge should take a look at the merits of the case and just throw the case out. Because personally, there's nothing that the case that the government has, their assertion is nonsense. Okay, their assertions is nonsense. These are his personal records. All right, they can try and say what they want, but these are his personal records. And they say, well, no, they became ours when he was no longer president. No, they don't. So unless you're going to try to apply a standard that was never used before, which is exactly what the government is asserting here, okay, and the judge should rule on this. The judge should sit up there and go, look, show me what this evidence is. This is part of the problem because the government hasn't even shown the judge the evidence that they want to present. And the judge has already made a couple of warnings about you'd better get on the ball with this. But the government's not going to do it. I'm telling you now, the government, the DOJ in this case, they're playing frickin' Mickey Mouse games because they were trying to set up a trial after trial after trial after trial after trial to try and interfere with him running for president. Now, for all the people who want to talk about Trump and say that I'm a Trump butt boy, I personally think Ron DeSantis would be a better president. All right. It's not that I think Trump would be a horrible president considering what we've got right now. Okay. But I am not a Trump sycophant. But at the same time, I'm not stupid either. I can look and see what the DOJ is doing and saying, okay, how do you sit up there and justify going after Trump like you have, as hard as you have, and let Hillary Clinton walk? For doing far worse, to include destroying subpoenaed records and data. And yet, this is now the issue you got to bring up now? And you're going to try and tell us this isn't political? Go pound sand. All right. On to the next story. This is where Maddie will yell at me because her and I disagree on this subject. I'm not the nanny from the Wall Street Journal. Hollywood's fiery activist gears up for a long fight. Sitcom star Fran Drescher's blunt appeals are galvanizing the actors' union in its labor negotiations. Wake up and smell the coffee. She has the star power, the middle class roots, and of course, the voice now. The voice now all Fran Drescher needs is to prove her worth as a labor leader to the 140,000 out of work actors. The 65-year-old performer, known for the 90s sitcom The Nanny, who once talked about bringing glitz and glamour to her role as president of the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild of America Federation of Television and Radio Artists, all right? SAG-AFTRA, I think is what they say, all right, suddenly finds herself in a very difficult situation. Now her uniform is t-shirts and leggings as she pickets in broiling heat with the rest of the union in its strike over a new 3-year contract with the studios. Her next step may prove even more challenging, holding together a union famous for its infighting if the strike drags on into the fall or even winter, as many expect. Okay. Now, the problem that the Actors Guild is having is the same problem, okay, that the writers are having. AI will be the new nanny. AI is a part of this, okay, because AI represents a competitive threat. Okay, it's competition. If you have an actor or AI, and I can do it with AI, well, it's another method or a comparative. They're not just actors in SAG. They aren't on strike for A-listers. They're striking for lesser paid members of the union. I've told you this. Okay. Yes, you have. Right. And I have said repeatedly, I'm not talking about the high A-list actors either. I'm talking about all of them. Okay? And what I mean by this, what I'm saying is the competition right now has gotten broader. Why? Because the pool of acting, the acting pool that can be pulled from, is far broader now. Now, that's one area of competition that they have to fight for. They have to fight that there's so many other potential actors and actresses out there that they have to sit up there and try and work against in order to get a job. Okay? That's problem one. Problem two. Okay, now, wait. For so people understand what I'm saying. And Maddie, no, both of them are playing games. To say that they're only that their whole thing is pure, their motivations are pure and clean as the wind-driven snow. Sorry, Maddie. Yes, I do understand that a portion of this is the ones at the lower end. All right, but that's not the only thing that they're striking for, and you know it. Okay, it's not. But the other problem, let me go on to not the other problem. Let me explain to you what I mean by the competition. Okay, competition has increased. First of all, in the fact that now all these studios, these big, huge Hollywood studios, right, have to compete with this channel. They have to compete with Maddie's channel. They have to compete with Omegon. They have to compete with Tim Pool. They have to compete, okay, with everybody else that can go out there with a minimum amount of money, all right, and get a web service as an entertainment medium. This is the same problem that is affecting musicians and recording artists. This is why recording artists have had to change how they get their money. Where before all they had to do was make a deal with one or two of the large studios, and that the large studios would pay them because they could control, all right, distribution. Distribution is no longer in their control. But what's more is production is no longer in their control. Anybody with a small video camera or a webcam can actually produce entertainment. Now, is it going to be the same quality? Is it going to be movie quality and things like that? You're forgetting the indie media producers as well. No, I'm not forgetting them. I'm just pointing all of the rest of this stuff out. Okay, so the competition that the studios have to deal with, all right, is far broader, and far broader also for the actors and actresses themselves. The competition. There is a reason you are no longer seeing the huge Hollywood stars, all right, coming and coming and coming like they used to. There was always the new young girl, the young boy like Leonardo DiCaprio coming into the Hollywood studios and being up front, and that you would see 5 or 6 films with the new talent that would be out there before they became old hat and went away. Some of them were good enough actors and actresses, all right, to have longevity. All right, they were able to sit up there and transition into older roles. All right, but for the most part, a lot of the young talent is gone once their looks begin to deteriorate. That's a reality. Okay, so the shelf life of these actors and actresses is not very long to begin with. I'm not going to deny that. Okay, but the studios can no longer do business the same way. They attempted, all right, to pivot to the network, and they came up with the idea of streaming services. Streaming services sound really good. It was great during COVID because everyone was locked in their freaking houses, and all of a sudden their streaming services exploded, and they were like, "Okay, well this will be the new frontier. This is where we're going with it." The problem is that streaming frontier had a very short shelf life. And did the studios take advantage of that situation? Yes, they did. But now those studios are suffering because they put a lot of money into that streaming, into the structure and the infrastructure, and now that they're losing money because subscribers are like, bye. So they're trying to figure out how to go back to this. How are we going to work this out? So going on strike, saying the studio should give us more money, or we're going to sit up there and demand these closed things in this kind of an environment where the studios are under pressure because of competition and competition from non-union actors and actresses. I'm telling you now, they're not going to win this the way they thought they did. Don't get me wrong, there will be a settlement at some point, but it will not be all the different ridiculous demands, and they did not all the demands that are being made by SAG and the writers guilds make a whole lot of sense. All right, they're not going to get that anymore. The world has changed. The environment that they work within has changed, for better or for worse. All right, the buggy whip has to go, and they have to adjust to that. Now, concerning Fran Drescher, okay, her commentary that she's been utilizing, right, is a tried and true method to gain public support. right? To get public to play out their demands in the court of public opinion. Okay, it's not it's not a bad tactic. Okay, in and of itself, it's one that's been tried and true. Okay, and has worked for many years. It was the one thing they could sit up there and browbeat up, is because the SAG people knew that in the household they were like household friends and household members. Okay, an example so people understand. And they used to wield against the studios. They would go after the studios, and they would accuse them of the kind of malfeasance that the studios were all a part of. All right, and they would gain public opinion, like, just snap their fingers and they would have it. The problem she's dealing with right now is no one cares. You're the television and screen actors are not a part of people's lives like they used to be. That's problem. That's one of the dynamics that has shifted. So how effective this will work, this will be, okay, remains to be seen. But there's another dynamic that actors and actresses right now are facing, that people like Fran Drescher, all right, when it really comes down to it, has to understand. And that's the Harvey Weinstein. There are a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are very upset with the actors and actresses who, all of them, knew about the Harvey Weinstein element of Hollywood and how perverted and how bad it was and how they were dominating everything, and kept quiet. Didn't want to rock the boat. So the moral high ground of saying, well, look at this guy making X amount of money versus me, it turns into, you're all this in the same boat. And let's be frank about something else. Spitting on the country on a constant basis has soured a lot of people as well. And a lot of these actors and actresses did that. They took their opportunity to spit on their customer base. If their customer base didn't like something and told them so, they spit on them. Oh, you're a misogynist, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're XYZ, everything bad, just because you didn't like my film. And their friends in the media, right, were more than willing to show it to everybody. Look at this, they're spitting on you. How do you feel about that, you bigot? And they amplified it. Well, I hate to tell you this, but the bills come due. Now, on top of all of that, toss in AI. On top of all of that, toss in AI. With a Writers Guild, it's even worse. And I've tried to explain this, but for the Writers Guild, actors and actresses are it's a very small medium in a certain sense. It's a very small area, right? Being photogenic, right, and so forth, is a smaller dynamic. Okay, it's not as broad. Writers are a different matter, because not only do the writers in Hollywood, all right, have to deal with that, deal with, like I was saying, the competition of the changes that the studios are going through, the changes of that environment that they're being forced in. But the writers also have to worry about competition from other writers that weren't part of their area at the time, because things have changed dramatically across writers across that whole genre. AI is infecting news. AI is infecting games. AI is infecting comics. AI, all right, has a place for these screenwriters as well. All of a sudden, all these writers are out of a job. The writers for the New York Times. The New York Times frickin' had to slash the number of reporters that they had. So you're competing with reporters. You're competing across a wide spectrum. And these are people looking for jobs. And they're looking for writing jobs, something that they know. So if they come back and say, hey, can you write a script? They're going to come up and go, sure, I can write a script. That competition for writing, and don't get me wrong, I am not saying AI is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's not. But all of this, that dynamic, all right, where a lot of these people got used to the world that it was, and it was due to the fact that technology hadn't that exists now didn't exist back then. And the first warning shot, and I told people about this back in the day, if you had ever listened to me with recording artists, is the first problem is you couldn't control distribution anymore. You had no ability. The media does not have the ability to control distribution like they used to. So to go on strike in this environment, and the one thing I haven't even talked about is the economy. The economy right now, because of inflation, has seriously dented people's ideas, all right, of what I can use for entertainment. This is one of the problems also with entertainment, because entertainment venues are broader now, because I can go on the internet. And what's worse for the Screen Actors Guild and what's worse for the Writers Guild, how many people today are now going back watching older content, okay, that was produced and seeing, wow, the older movies, the older actors, and rediscovering how good they were, rediscovering how good Richard Chamberlain was, rediscovering how good an actor, okay, or actress in this case, Katharine Hepburn is. They can watch content, all right, for an entire year of stuff that they never watched before without even worrying about it, because there's so much out there that they never shown, and it's still there. Studios have all of that. You can put Ivanhoe up now. Yeah, every time I go to submit my resume and writing portfolio for freelance, I see they are looking for people who will use AI to write articles and short books. I believe it. What they want is someone who uses AI, because most of their writing will become a little bit of writing, mostly editing, and will produce this dynamic. Where the world is shifting to. They're gonna use AI as a tool to help them write. That's gonna do a lot of the heavy lifting part of writing. The overall creative nature of the writing will still exist, all right, and some of the style will still exist, but a lot of the style, unfortunately, is going to go to the wayside, all right, and that's going to be true, unfortunately, of movies as well. But the problem that these writers have in this entertainment field is the fact that you've got content for how many years sitting back. How many people are going to watch Gone with the Wind for the first time? How many people are going to watch Ivanhoe for the first time? See the actors and actresses of the day. National Velvet. How many of the young people have seen National Velvet? How many people have seen, really? I know everyone knows about this, but how many people have seen Casablanca? The Maltese Falcon. around the world in 80 days. How many people have seen these stories? How many people have seen Guns of Navarone? The content is there. North Dallas 40. There's a lot out there from a competition standpoint that the studios can go back to and show and put out there. They call me Mr. Tibbs. There's so much out there. The studios can just release it. And it's not just that, they got television content. Sure, there are certain shows like Gilligan's Island, which has been around forever. Everyone's probably seen at least one or two episodes of Gilligan Island, but there was plenty of other shows that were done around the same time frame. They just didn't last as long or have as much you know popularity. But when you're dealing with an environment of all sorts of different entertainment venues, looking for something new is just as easy as going back, dialing back a few 50 years, and taking a look at the entertainment medium from 50 years ago. What was available? The greatest stories ever told, right? And then, and I'm going to be real blunt with you, how many of them are going to sit up there and take a look at some of these remakes in a different light when they see the originals? On to the next story. Mob of Indian women set fire to a home of a suspect in a rape case in raging nation. An angry mob of women in northeast India attacked the home of the main suspect in a gang rape of two minority women in May, which has enraged the country. The revenge attack on Friday in Manipur, was in response to a video that went viral on social media this week that showed two women aged 19 and 21 being stripped naked and paraded through a street 2 months ago. The victims were part of a larger group running from a village in the Kangkopi district, as it was burned by a mob of 800 to 1,000 people. Police said the man is believed to have dragged the two tribal women onto the street and incited the mob to rape them and march them through the community. Local women pelted stones and burnt some parts of the house belonging to the prime suspect accused in the village, said Hemant Pandey, a senior police official in the state of Imphal, confirmed on Friday. And you can see some of these actions. All right. The main suspect, a Manipur resident, was arrested on Thursdays, hours after Prime Minister Modi condemned the May assault as shameful and promised tough action. 3 others were arrested, and police are tracing at least 30 other individuals involved in the crime. A police complaint in May said an armed mob vandalized some houses and burnt them to the ground before attacking members belonging to the Kuki tribe. The assault was reported by the victims at the time, a period when the state witnessed intense ethnic clashes. The fighting was triggered by a court order that the government should consider extenuating special circumstances enjoyed by the tribal Kuki people to the majority Meite population as well. At least 125 people have been killed and more than 40,000 have fled their homes since the violence erupted. Now this is India, okay, and I'm not trying to say that this is a direct comparison, but if people feel that they're not getting justice from the system, they will begin to take the law into their own hands. It's a warning. It truly is a warning, folks, of what can happen. In this case, I don't know the situation. I don't know exactly what happened. The people in that local village seem to have their own opinions about what happened, and they're not happy about it. And I can't blame them, and I'm not going to. It is what it is. Live! Russia says West responsible for the death of a Russian journalist in the Ukraine. Moscow on Saturday said the West is responsible for the death of a Russian war correspondent killed in the Ukrainian shelling in the southern Zaporizhzhia region on Saturday. Earlier, the Russian installed leader of Crimea said the Ukrainian drone attack on the peninsula had caused the detonation of an ammunition depot, leading to the evacuation of those living within 5 kilometers of the site. Now, Moscow is complaining because one of their journalists were killed by a munition, specifically these cluster munitions that we handed over to the Ukrainians. All right. It's very possible, but I don't know why you're bitching, Russia. If you want to know the truth, we do that to our own people too. A Russian journalist killed when journalists in the U.S. even get killed over stupid shit. It is what it is, dude. You're in a war zone. If you're a reporter in a war zone, my hat's off to you, but don't look at me and say, well, I'm going to be sympathetic towards you, because I'm not. I'm truly not. Then why do you say that? I can hear it right now. Nomad, how could you make that statement? I'll tell you why. Because the vast majority of the reporters that I have run into contact with, right, even the ones in the media circles back when I was over in playing in the sandbox, I have zero respect for, because they are there to make my life difficult. And they're only there for getting money from their bosses. They're not there to help with the war effort. They're not there to sit up there and help us do our jobs. They're there as an impediment. That's how I feel about reporters, especially reporters in a war zone, where we have to, quote unquote, use our resources, our military resources, all right, to keep these jackasses alive, so they can spit on the country, spit on my job, all right, that I'm trying to do, and try and get them away from accomplishing it. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, no. They're used for propaganda purposes and everything else, no, man. Bullshit. Reporters are vermin. That's how I've always looked at them. Okay. And I have plenty of reason to believe that. I'll just give you an example. Let's get in the Wayback Machine. Right? There was a president that we had back in the day named Barack Hussein Obama. And he chose a general to be in charge of the Afghan effort, all right, to solidify and fix Afghanistan. And the general he chose was a man named McChrystal. Now, for those who don't know, McChrystal was a former Special Forces officer. His most of his career was spent in special operations, And I know a lot of people are like, well, what does that matter? Well, it matters because special operations has a very specific job to do. But when it comes to an overall campaign kind of an issue, they're not necessarily the best people to work in that environment. And McChrystal, okay, allowed reporters from the Rolling Stone to have full access to his people, who then proceeded to write a hit piece, all right, about these people all don't like Barack Obama and got McChrystal fired, even though McChrystal was not one of the ones that was actually involved in any of the derogatory statements that were made about the upper chain of command and how they were able to work with things. They're not there to help people, folks. They really aren't. Next story. Nebraska teen jailed for illegal disposal of her aborted fetus. Now, why am I doing this story? Because if you take a look in the U.S. newspapers, they're putting her in jail for having an abortion. No, it's not. A U.S. teenager was sentenced to 90 days in prison after taking abortion pills to end her pregnancy and disposing of the fetus with her mother's help. No, they didn't just dispose of it, they did it illegally. Celeste Burgess, now 19, pled guilty to illegally concealing human remains after she had an abortion when around 28 weeks pregnant. You know, the last trimester, the third trimester. Just putting it out there, folks, for all these little anti-abortion. Ow, third trimester abortions are rare. Really? Beyond the 20-week limits set by Nebraska law. Her mother, Jessica Burgess, 42, faces up to 5 years in prison for helping her. Nebraska now bans abortion at 12 weeks. Police opened an investigation into the mother and daughter in June of 2022 before the Supreme Court overturned the nationwide right to an abortion and left it to the states. There was no right to an abortion, okay? All right? That is something that was always that was never part of any of the Roe v. Wade or any of the rest of that crap. But anyway, we'll just continue this. And whether to allow the procedure. At the time, both mother and daughter, then 17, right, resided in Nebraska, where abortions had been banned at 20 weeks from conception. Earlier this year, Nebraska lawmakers passed a 12-week abortion ban. Has nothing to do with this story, though. We're just going to put it in there. According to the court documents, Celeste was on trial in her third trimester of pregnancy when she consumed abortion pills, making the procedure illegal per Nebraska law. When initially confronted by the police, the teen allegedly told authorities that she had delivered a stillborn fetus. But according to court documents, she and her mother had discussed in Facebook messages how to obtain abortion pills and burn the evidence. And that's where they got in trouble, folks. Okay? In May, Burgess pleaded guilty to a felony charge of removing or concealing human skeletal remains and 2 other misdemeanor charges against her. Concealing the death of another person and false reporting were dropped. All right? In addition to serving 3 months in jail, she faces 2 years of probation. That's the real story. And then, of course, you had to go to the BBC to find it. But even the BBC puts in these things, lawmakers passed an abortion. Who cares? What's that? How's that at all, or a gerryman to the story? Nomad, you're just one of these right wing nuts. You're just one of these people who just supports the state and everything. Oh, really? Okay. Mississippi Sheriff Eddie Scott forced an inmate to have sex on a hog farm, retaliated against women who accused him of sexual misconduct in a report. This guy needs to find himself a victim of the wood chipper going brrr. Okay. Longtime sheriff of a Mississippi county sexually assaulted dozens of inmates and arrestees he dubbed hookers, heifers, and hoes during his 3-decade career, according to an explosive new report. Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott has been the subject of numerous sexual exploitation allegations since taking office in 2012, but continues to spearhead the department more than a decade later, the New York Times revealed Wednesday. Scott's accusers claim the powerful law enforcement leader coerced him into sexual relationships and retaliated against them when they threatened to come forward with the abuse allegations. The alleged assaults date back to years before Scott won his election for the leadership role, but one victim made allegations in the early months of his reign. The unidentified 26-year-old woman accused Scott of driving her to a hog farm to have sex in his patrol car on at least 5 occasions in 2009 as part of a promise he would use his influence to keep her out of prison. She laid out her claims in a state circuit court just 3 months into Scott's tenure and provided prison letters from the sheriff to them, according to the report. Hey, sexy, Scott, then 47, wrote to her in prison 9 months before his election. Got my blood pumping hard after reading the last 2 letters. Can't stop thinking about how tight it is. Oh my, I'm not even going to go any further than this. Folks, this is a degenerate. Even if we decide, for whatever stupid reason, you want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and say it was all consensual sex. Why you would do that, I have no freaking clue. But this guy, even if you accept that aspect of it as he's a degenerate. Is this what you want leading your law enforcement? Is this what you want in charge of your law enforcement? There comes a point where people have to sit up there and start looking at their own freaking actions when you elect jackasses like this to these kinds of positions. Now, I'll be honest with you. In the cases here, these cases are old. That's a problem. Okay? Just putting it out there. These allegations are from the past. But do I doubt that some of these things took place? Look, where there's too much smoke, there's fire. Right? He's also accused of planting evidence. Considering that this guy's a degenerate, does it surprise me? No. These people, look, these are elected sheriffs. He got elected. This kind of stuff needs to go out there, and it needs to be prosecuted. These people need to be arrested, they need to be prosecuted, and they need to be put away for their criminal activity. All right, let's talk about Florida. Florida paper tears apart defense of Black History standard on personal benefit of slavery skills. The Tampa Bay Times tore apart the group responsible for the Florida's Black History standards that include instruction that slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. The Florida Board of Education voted Wednesday to approve the curriculum on Black History, which includes teaching slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit and requires teaching acts of violence perpetuated against and by African Americans. Okay, when you say for their personal benefit, what does that entail? See, they take one small section, and it was obvious what they were saying for personal benefit was for the personal benefit of slaves to sit up there and help them against the oppressors and the oppression that they were facing. Not that, oh, they were happy to use these skills because the massa gave it to them. They were not trying to do that. It's a total misrepresentation of what they were trying to teach. They fail to understand any of this. For example, they mentioned Booker T. Washington, and then this guy says, but he didn't get his skills because he was freed at the age of 9, and he worked in mines and as a houseboy before entering school, according to the Tuskegee University, which he founded in 1881. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. What they're talking about is they want to sit up there and push that Booker T. Washington's achievements, all right, allowed him to fight against the racism and oppression of his day and age, to the point where he was able to do this. Not that, look, the massa was giving him skills. And they know that this is a misreading of this. They know that this is a mischaracterization of this skill. School district faces CRT battle after book teaches white America is a syndicate. A South Carolina school district has become embroiled in a dispute surrounding critical race theory after a high school teacher allegedly conducted a lesson centered on systemic racism, teaching that white America is a syndicate for control. You wonder why we're having problems in these schools. You wonder why this is outrageous. It's because the left is not honest when they're talking about these issues, and they never have been. If you want to talk about the racial issues going on in this country, and the fact that slavery, all right, as a black stain on them, or as a stain on America history, all right, when I said black stain, I'm like black eyes, what I was thinking. You have to teach this. You have to teach what slavery was like. Now, the problem, no matter how you look at this, okay, is slavery was not ubiquitous in experiential treatment. What do I mean by that? One slave was not treated like another slave, was not treated like another slave. So their experiences of oppression, all right, differ. That's what I mean. The experiences of the slave owners differs. Were there heinous slave owners? You damn right there were. Should they be pointed out in history? You damn right they should. In fact, all history should sit up there and point to this. And the problem is not that you use these as examples. The problem is people forget this was not the only way slaves were oppressed. That the oppression was far broader on a broader scale. For example, everyone goes back to, or many people will point out the movie Roots, all right, where Kunta Kinte is whipped into accepting his new name. Okay, did that happen? Oh hell yes. Should it be pointed out that this kind of thing was happening? Yes, it should. But that's not where the problem was. The problem of this person being whipped, all right, being bad. The problem was the larger problem with that, and that was bad, right? The larger problem is it was an accepted method of discipline, all right, as well. That threat was always there. It was ever present. If you were black, you ran the risk of being whipped and the rest of society just standing by, letting you get whipped. Even when they were sympathetic toward your plight, the rest of society was standing by watching this guy get whipped. And that gets lost in this case. That mentality gets lost. And it opens the door for the apologist to say, well, but not all slaves got whipped like that. Because, most of them were smart enough not to accept their new name. As if somehow that's a justification. That's where the problem with this crap is. So, is Florida? Are they teaching about about slaves being whipped? Are they teaching about the slave revolts? Are they teaching about what happened in the slave revolts? Yeah, because believe it or not, these are all things that happened. Were there excesses on both sides? Sure, but one side set up there that's trying to defend itself. Did they then go to excess afterwards in a reaction? Yeah, because that's how the world works. But it's not a good thing to say the overreaction didn't happen if there was an overreaction. For example, bashing a 3-year-old's head in, okay, is never going to be acceptable. Okay? And did that happen? It did happen. A 3-year-old is a 3-year-old. Do I understand why it happened? Yeah, I do. But it's not justifiable if you're going to sit up there and talk about humanity. You can't sit up there and play games like that. Because then you open the door for more inhumane treatment. School board president goes berserk, kicks pro LGBTQ state security chief, or schools chief, excuse me, out of a meeting. San Bernardino County, California School Board President Sanjay Shah, acknowledging a political grudge, grew angered and agitated in front of parents and students attending a school board meeting Thursday, kicking the state superintendent of public instruction out after publicly berating him and accusing him of proposing things that pervert children, blackmail, and yelling at him that he had supported her opponent for an election. Leftist on leftist action, folks. All right, folks, just to let you know, I got to take a phone call here, so I'm going to be silent for just a little bit. That was my son who was having some issues with his sister. Just to let you know. So this woman, obvious leftist, all right, doesn't like the fact that this guy sat up there and didn't like her. Starts accusing him of proposing things that pervert children. Really? So the LGBTQ agenda is perverting children? Welcome to reality. You may have done the right thing, Sanjay, all right, but you did it for all the wrong reasons because you really don't care. Just put it out there. Stanford Law School DEI dean resigns following viral protest incident. Tyrion Steinbach, the Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Stanford Law School, has announced her resignation from her position. The decision comes after an incident in March where Steinbach delivered a speech reprimanding federal judge Kyle Duncan, appointed by President Trump. The incident gained widespread attention when the video and the audio of the event went viral, showing the law students shouting down Judge Duncan for his conservative views. In the announcement, Dean Jenny S. Martinez expressed hope that the law school can move forward as a community after the divisions caused by the incidents. During the event, Steinbeck questioned whether providing a platform for a Judge Duncan speech was worth the harm and division it caused. Her remarks received significant criticism, with many of them considering an example of campus wokeness and an attack on free speech, which it exactly is. You see, that's how they've been doing things. I think one of the most hilarious recent videos that I saw from Jordan Peterson, who, I'm going to be real blunt with you, I'm not a fan of Jordan Peterson, okay, was when he stood up there and said, you know how I avoid all these protesters and everything when I go to give speeches on these school campuses everywhere? And the person was like, well how? He says, I do it at 8 a.m. because all the protesters and all the people that they gained for all this are still in bed sleeping because they're lazy slobs. He didn't call them lazy slobs. I editorialized that. But that's really his point. That these people are professional protesters, all right? They're not the hard-working, good, clean little Marys and little Johnnies. All right. From the Rolling Stone, we need to talk. We need to talk about those Oppenheimer sex scenes. the fact the fact that you even have sex scenes in Oppenheimer. All right, now I haven't seen the movie yet. I intend to watch it. Okay, not for the reasons people think, but Robert Oppenheimer. Okay, is a complex individual, but I don't hold him out as a hero. Right? No, but I want people to understand that he's not a hero. All right, he could have been. Okay, but he went off the Marxist end. Okay, I want you to understand that. My problem with Oppenheimer isn't the production of the atomic bomb. Kudos, right? But why do you even need sex scenes in Oppenheimer? Well, let's read this story. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, and two films explore Robert Burns' proverb this week, Oppenheimer, and Kristen Nolan's IMAX size 3-hour biopic of the father of the atomic bomb, and Barbie, a Mattel-sanctioned deconstruction of the patriarchy from the fertile mind of Greta Gerwig. No, this is not a deconstruction of the patriarchy. All right, and it's not a fertile mind; it's a polluted mind. All right. Only one of these summer blockbusters, however, boasts a number of sex scenes, and it isn't the one starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Right? Oppenheimer explores the life and times of renowned theoretical physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, embodied by an admirably committed Cillian Murphy, right, through the twin prisms of his time as a de facto leader of the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, New Mexico, as the U.S. and its team of scientific avengers raced to create the first atomic bomb before the Nazis, and his 1954 security clearance hearings, where Congress sought to paint the erstwhile savior as a commie governed by anti-American hostilities and wanton sexual desires, ugly stereotypes all too commonly foisted on American Jews like Oppenheimer. It had nothing to do with Jews in that case. Okay, and this is a problem. Okay, Oppenheimer was sympathetic and a commie lover. Not When I say lover, I'm not talking about, you know, his personal dalliances. Oppenheimer had several of the people and gave information and allowed information from several of the people on his team that directly led to the Soviet Union's production and creation of an atomic bomb. And he was not sorry about it. He was not upset about that. And to say that Robert Oppenheimer participated in it, was a willing participant in it, no, he wasn't a participant in it, all right? But he stood up there and did know that there were several members of his team that were problematic and needed to be looked at from a security perspective, and he chose to turn a blind eye to it rather than sit up there and alert the security people of, hey, there might be a problem with this guy. Don't get me wrong, I hold him in high regard as a physicist. And I think some of the things that people talked about that are also a part that I know are part of this movie, okay? For example, when they were worried about it could start and put the whole atmosphere on fire, okay? They took their worst assessment and said, okay, how could the atmosphere go on fire? In order for the atmosphere to go on fire, they had to basically use the energy that they were looking at, convert it to heat energy, by the way, just so people understand this. All right. And that the worry at the time, or I should say the exploration at the time, because it wasn't much of a worry, was that it would create that the atomic reaction would create a fusion reaction, all right, within the atmosphere's nitrogen. Okay. For those who don't understand this, the lighter elements, all right, are subject to fusion. When I'm talking about lighter elements, the lower the atomic number, fusion is possible at the low atomic numbers. It actually stops fusion, as far as we are able to determine, stops at iron. This is one of the reasons why they think that if there was some kind of a massive amount of iron placed inside of the sun, it would destroy the sun. Right? But the energy it takes to fuse, okay, and the density of the material are all in play here. So in order for a fusion reaction of nitrogen to begin to fuse, all right, you have to have a whole lot of nitrogen, all right, in a high density environment. And they pretty much already knew that that wasn't the case. Now, why did they know that? Because if that was the case, to be honest, they would have already seen elements of this that were more worrisome, all right, in the non-explosive reactions that they had been working at in nuclear piles. If that kind of fusion would have taken place, there would never be a nitrogen atmosphere. It would have been ripped away. It would have been ripped away a long time ago. And they understood that. So, but mathematically, they went through the process of proving it, and they did prove it. All right, let's go on to the next story. Housewife convicted of harassment after bombarding her husband with phone calls while he was watched football at his friend's house has now split from him while they still share the same house. You know, back in the day, we used to call that nagging. That was just the wife being a nag. And if the person is calling continuously, you just don't answer. A housewife convicted of harassment after nagging her hubby for enjoying a beer while watching a football match with his friends now see they even say it. All right, now lead separate lives the male online can reveal. Joan and Steve Healy still live in the same house, but their marriage is over, friends said today. The couple no longer share any interest or socialize together. A friend said that Steve has found it all deeply embarrassing and the whole family has had it tough, right? It was something that got slightly out of control and he feels it shouldn't have gone to court. You're right, dude. Then why did you take it to court? Everyone is shocked that it went to court. Joanne and Steve no longer have any involvement with each other's lives. The incident happened because of Joanne's drinking. Now they do their own thing and separate lives, and they may live in the same house, but that is it. Dude, leave. All right, just put it out there. Leave. Safer for you. Just put it out there. Duo busted for sex on a beach. Not the act, not the drink. Meet Anastasia Crutcher and Alexander Dillman. Crutcher and Dillman were arrested after lifeguards reported seeing them having sex in front of families and other beachgoers Monday afternoon in Daytona Beach, Florida story. What a surprise. One lifeguard reported that Crutcher and Dillman had intercourse for approximately 15 minutes near his watchtower. The other lifeguard said that he observed the male erect penis penetration of a female's vagina, according to the arrest affidavit. Crutcher and Dillman left the beach after being contacted by one of the lifeguards. The pair was busted after the sheriff's deputy encountered them at the top of a nearby stairwell in complete nudity. All right, if you've been chased off the beach, go into a stairwell undressed, you guys are idiots. All right, I'm just putting it out there. You deserve to be charged. Fucking morons. They were charged with indecent exposure, a misdemeanor, and booked in the Volusia County Jail, where they remained behind bars. Dillon was also charged with resisting arrest for allegedly refusing to get into the squad car. Crutcher is facing aggravated battery count for an earlier incident Monday in which she allegedly struck a female acquaintance with a metal beach umbrella tube. I think that I think that we need to. On to the next story. Woman hit the wrong man with a burrito, cops say. A burrito thrown by a woman at a Florida restaurant missed its intended target, instead hitting a male victim in the face, according to police who arrested the alleged food tosser. Investigators were called Wednesday evening to Rick's Reef and St. Pete Beach Eatery due to a female subject yelling at customers. The woman in question was Sarah Ann Cochera, 46, who lives with her boyfriend at a condo just down the Gulf Boulevard from Rick's. A witness told police that Cochera was in a verbal dispute with a man not identified in the arrest affidavit. At one point, Cochera threw a burrito at the suspect, but the airborne burrito did not strike the man whom she had quarreled with. Instead, the Mexican food stuff, I don't know about delicacy, but all right, hit the victim in the face. The affidavit does not indicate whether the victim was injured by the burrito. Assault by burrito. And yes, Matt, or Terry Marie rather, yes, Florida. All three of these stories were Florida. Cops busted man hid a bullet behind his balls. An accused fraudster had a bullet hidden beneath his testicles, according to jailed personnel who last night found a live round while conducting a strip search. Police allege that Michael Keanu Brennan, 24, utilized stolen information on a credit card to pay for a $3,000 17-night stay at a vacation home in Indian Rocks Beach, 2 blocks from the Gulf of Mexico. Brennan was arrested yesterday at his rental, where police found numerous driver's licenses, checks, social security cards, credit cards, and debit cards, all in different names. All right. Brennan, seen at the right, copped to buying an identification off the internet and using it to buy the lodging. While being booked into jail, Brennan also was warned that additional penalties would apply if he was hiding drugs or contraband. Though Brennan claimed not to be carrying anything, an unfortunate jail deputy located a 22 caliber round of ammunition that was positioned beneath the suspect's testicles. The bullet was collected by a second sheriff's deputy, and it was confirmed that had not been fired and was still live. Upon discovery of the ammo, Brennan was hit with an additional felony charge for introducing contraband into a detention facility. He was released from custody this morning after posting $15,150 bond. Dude, Brennan, who appeared to live in a Miami suburb, was in possession of a Bahamas passport, a driver's license, both in his name, when collared. I think this guy's a flight risk, to be honest. Not that this guy. I don't think you should be holding this guy as a Mensa candidate for anything. Okay. Let's take a picture here. We have little Tabby. Tabby's got the little collar of shame on. Now you know why Tabby has the collar of shame. Tabby is reaching for a knife. Put this collar on me, will you? Okay, well, we can handle this right now. We can deal with this situation right now. Say hello to my little friend. Just right here. She's not looking. Time to grab it. Oh, shit. Foiled again. Hello, Lou. Unfortunately, it's we only have one more story for the rest of the day. Final story of the day. Animal service officer swims in river to rescue kitten from a log. Kitten stories today. An animal service officer in Texas swam out into the river in his full uniform to rescue a kitten stranded on a floating log. Seguin Animal Services posted a series of photos to Facebook showing Field Supervisor Brendan Moore swimming in the Guadalupe River carrying the kitten back to shore. The Animal Services said the kitten had been stranded on a log floating down the river near a boat ramp. The cat was taken to the Seguin Animal Services. It's no telling how long it was on the log. Animal Services said the kitten will be put up for adoption if no owner comes forward to claim it. And so let's see if we can take the picture. Oh, you can see the little cat goes out there, sees the cat. I don't know what the dog is doing, or what this is, or just showing more rescues. All right, of the services. So basically, goes out there, swims, gets this. It's a nice day, right? Go out there and rescue the animal because the cat. Well, okay, cats can swim, all right, but quite frankly, they don't swim great, and in a river kind of environment, a small creature like that could easily be swamped and not make it out. So, kudos to Mr. Moore, to Brendan Moore, all right, for taking care of that. And that's the final story that I have for the day. I hope that you all guys enjoyed the show. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye, everybody.